Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to see the art movement from modern to postmodern. So World War II was brought to a terrifying end on August 9th, 1945, when the United States dropped an atomic bomb on the Japanese city of Nagasaki. The United States and the Soviet Union had emerged from the war as the two dominant superpowers were entering into the prolonged nuclear armed standoff known as the Cold War. So we are going to see the art movement about this era. The center of artistic energy had shifted. Several developments had paved the ways for this flowering of advanced art in America. One was founding of Museum of Modern Art in New York City in 1929. So this is the timeline. The modern art movements arose in Europe since foundation of Louvre Museum in Paris, right? However, after the foundation of Museum of Modern Art in New York City, the art trends moved from Europe to America. So painters associated with the first major post-war art movements are commonly referred to as the New York School. See here, during World War II. And there are diverse art styles emerged in 60s and 70s in America. In this video, we are going to see the abstract expressionists of the New York School and the pop art in 60s and 70s. So the New York School was a convenient label under which to lump together a group of painters, also known as the abstract expressionists. Abstract expressionists were Jackson Pollock and Willem de Kooning. So Paul Jackson Pollock was an American painter and a major figure in the abstract expressionist movement. He was widely noticed for his technique of pouring or splashing liquid household paint onto a horizontal surface, enabling him to view and paint his canvases from all angles. Jackson Pollock had perfected his drip technique named action painting. So Pollock placed the unstretched canvas on the floor and painted on it indirectly by casting paint from a brush in controlled gestures or by dripping paint from a stir stick. So layer after layer, color after color, the painting grew into an all-over tangle of graceful arches, draped lines, spatters, and pools of colors. Willem de Kooning was a Dutch-American abstract expressionist artist. In the years after World War II, de Kooning painted in a style that came to be referred to as abstract expressionism or action painting, and was part of a group of artists that came to be known as the New York School. So de Kooning's well-known women's series began in 1950 and culminating in Woman 6 owes much to Picasso, not least in the aggressive, penetrative breaking apart of the figure and the spaces around it. So the woman painting is considered as a significant work of art for the museum through its historical context about the post-World War II history and American feminist movement. He once believed that the history of female representations as the idol, the Venus, and the nude. So now let's see 60s and 70s art. Composer John Cage said, music and art should be an affirmation of life, not an attempt to bring order out of chaos, nor to suggest improvements in creation, but simply a way of waking up to the very life we are living. So like the Dadaists of 40 years earlier, we learned it in the last video, young artists began mixing art back up with life as they found it, sometimes literally and often humorously. So critics called the trend Neo-Dada, means New Dada. So during the 60s and 70s, the directions that had been set out in the previous decade were continued, questioned, and complicated by the trends. So the first art movement in 60s and 70s we are going to see is pop art. So pop for popular. The artist of pop found a goldmine of visual material in the mundane, mass-produced objects and the images of America's popular culture, such as comic books, advertising, billboards, and packaging, and the ever-expanding world of home appliances and other commodities, and photographic images from cinema, television, and newspapers. So like Neo-Dada, pop drew art closer to life, but life as it had already been transformed into images by advertising and the media. So we are going to see 3 artists of pop art in this video. So the first pop artist is Andy Warhol. Born in Pittsburgh to working class immigrant parents, Warhol earned a degree in design at Carnegie Institute of Technology in 1949. And he was an American artist, director, and producer who was a leading figure in the visual art movements known as pop art. So his goal was to become a commercial artist, and within a year of arriving in New York City, he had top assignments from Glamour magazine, Harper's Bazaar, Vogue, Martini and Rosie, Columbia Records, and many others. His whimsical line drawing of cats, butterflies, and especially women's shoes made him one of the most sought and highly paid illustrator in the city. So after working as an illustrator for only a few years, Warhol reinvented himself as a fine artist. He based his paintings on imaginary he found in the American mass media, such as news photos, celebrities' headshots, film stills, comics, logos, and advertisements. To convert his source images into paintings, Warhol made them into photo silk screens and printed them on canvas. Smudges, misalignments, and inconsistencies were accepted, giving the paintings a handmade appearance despite his use of a commercial process. So there is an Andy Warhol's silkscreen word process video. Please watch it for your understanding. So sometimes the paintings include a single image, as in Marilyn Monroe, and the Campbell Soups series. These became a larger-than-life iconic portraits, while those printed in Greece suggest the way that repetition can simultaneously embed an image in one's memory and deaden its effect. So these brash, innovative works are considered icons of pop art, a movement that both critiqued and celebrated post-war American consumer culture. So by the end of the decade, Warhol had become a celebrity in his own right, equally famous for his platinum wig and the star-studded parties he threw at his studio, the factory as he was for his paintings, drawings, sculpture, and films. In 1968, Warhol was shot and nearly killed by the actress Bellati Solanas, who had had a big part in one of his films. Post-shooting, his work became both more commercial and more introspective. He hired himself out as a portraitist, making flattering images of the rich and famous, but he also made haunting self-portraits that hinted at purported fear of death. Although he was only 58 years old when he died, he left an immense body of work that seems increasingly relevant today as the distinction among art, entertainment, information, and spectacle continue to erode. So the next pop artist we are going to see is Roy Lichtenstein. Roy Lichtenstein was born on October 27th, 1923 in New York City. His father was a successful real estate broker, and his mother was a homemaker, and she had trained him as a pianist, and she exposed Roy and his sister Renee to museums, concerts, and other aspects of New York culture. Roy showed artistic and musical ability early on. He drew, painted, and sculpted as a teenager, and he spent many hours in the American Museum of Natural History and Museum of Modern Art. So his work is inspired by cartoon, which is one of the America's popular culture. Lichtenstein used stencils, thick black outlines, and primary colors to elevate both commercial images and the commercial printing process into art. He used the familiar imaginary to create art that could be enjoyed by the masses after the series and complicated abstract expressionist movement. And he said, pop art looks out into the world. It doesn't look like a painting of something. It looks like the thing itself. So there is a video about Roy Lichtenstein's fun work process in this section. So please watch it. And the last pop artist we are going to see in this video is Jeffrey Koons. So Jeff Koons is an American artist recognized for his work dealing with popular culture, and his sculptures depicting everyday objects, including balloon animals, produced in stainless steel with mirror finished surfaces. He lives and works in both the New York City and hometown of York, Pennsylvania. And Jeff Koons, one of the world's most expensive living artists, widely known for his balloon animal sculptures, began his Bronze Hulk Elvis series more than a decade ago. So this is one of his famous work, Ball and Dog sculpture. So works from the ongoing series Hulk, Elvis, range from precision machined bronze sculptures, and it inspired by inflatable of the popular comic book hero and extruded in 3 dimensions. For Kunz, the character represents not only Western comic book culture, but Eastern guardian gods as well. So he said like this, they are there as protectors, but at the same time, they can become very, very violent. So the Hulks are like that. They are really high testosterone symbols. Also, Kunz designed Lady Gaga's art pop album cover and exhibited artwork at Gaga's art rave in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And there is his interview video about his works of art. So please watch it for fully understanding this amazing artist. So we are going to continue to see the 60s and 70s postmodernism art in the next video. Bye.